Hey guys, Chester Westifer here. In today's Doctor Who ranking video, I'm going to rank all the Sontaran stories from my least favorite to my favorite. Now, just so you know, I'm not including any big finish stories or any stories where they made cameo appearances or that Strax was in, because those aren't really Sontaran stories. So, like, no Time of the Doctor or Good Man Goes to War or Deep Breath or anything like that. Just the stories where they were the main villains. So, without further ado, here we go. Okay, bottom of the list, the two doctors. So, there are a few stories in both classic and new Who that kind of miss the mark. Whether they're boring, or some make no sense, or some have good ideas but frustratingly just don't execute them very well. This is probably one of the worst offenders of that type. Recently, I took the plunge and watched all of Doctor Who in order, from Unearthly Child to Revolution of the Daleks. It took 3 years, but it was worth it. Some of the stories I'd seen, some of them I hadn't. The Two Doctors was the only story that I'd seen that when I got there, I kind of dreaded watching it. Maybe that sounds harsh, but it's true. It's frustrating because the story had so much potential. I mean, how could reuniting Patrick Troughton and Fraser Hines and combining them with the newest TARDIS team possibly go wrong? Well, let's see. How about separating the Doctor and Jamie in the beginning, thereby eliminating most of the chemistry which made them so entertaining to watch? Then have Troughton not play the second Doctor for the majority of the story, but instead turn him into an evil, ravenous lunatic who only cares about stuffing his face with everything in sight. Then add cannibals and make the Sontarans, who are too tall by the way, almost secondary to the main villain and actually pretty irrelevant to the story. Oh, and then to top it all off, add a scene where Colin Baker ruthlessly murders a villain. That all sounds very entertaining, doesn't it? And yes, I know it's not technically cannibalism as they are aliens, and I know Robert Holmes is trying to make a pro-vegetarian statement or something, but since the aliens look like humans, it doesn't work at all, and it's just really disgusting. Feels like something that would fit better on Torchwood than classic Doctor Who. I'm sorry if this is one of your favorite stories. I know some people like it, and there are a few good moments, I suppose, when the Doctors do finally get together. And it's nice to see Fraser Hines return to the role after all those years, but all that is not enough to save it from being one of my least favorite Doctor Who stories of all time. Okay, next on the list, The Invasion of Time. Okay, so I'm not as down on this one as most fans are. I actually kind of like it for what it is. The problem is that what it is isn't much. It's another one that had some good ideas, but didn't quite follow through with them. Sontarans invading Gallifrey is an interesting concept. When I was a kid and I found out there was a story in which that happened, I thought it sounded like one of the coolest things ever. The problem is that the Sontarans come in way too late in the story, and when they do, there isn't much to do with them. The Vardans just aren't as interesting as villains, and watching Tom Baker pretend to be bad could have been fun for an episode, but not several. The story would have benefited from being shorter, and I think the Sontarans should have come in around episode 2 or 3, not 4. But the biggest mark against this story for me is Leela's horrible exit. Feels like the writer didn't even know who she was. It didn't fit her character at all, and was not foreshadowed in any way by the story. We barely saw her and that Time Lord together at all, and honestly, what Time Lord would fall in love with a human besides that? This is like a High Gallifreyan falling in love with a savage, and a savage falling in love with a High Gallifreyan. Two of the most opposite groups you could think of. And then on top of that, the fact that they barely had any time together for this to happen, it just makes no sense at all. It might be the worst companion departure in all of Doctor Who. And yes, I think it's even worse than Dodo. I do like that they attempted to show the TARDIS, even though that wasn't quite right either. All in all, not a bad story. Not a great one either, though. It just kinda, there. Next, the Sontaran Experiment. This is another story that I think it isn't particularly bad, but not great either. It feels like they just needed a couple filler episodes, so this was just written quickly. Not sure if that's the case, and it might have more to do with the fact that it's nestled between two of the best stories of all time. Anyway, there are some good ideas in here, and of course the thing that really saves it from being forgettable is that possibly the best TARDIS team of all time is in it. The Fourth Doctor, Sarah Jane, and Harry. Watching them together is always a boatload of fun. And I wish they'd kept Ian Marter around for longer so we'd have more, but that's okay. We had what we had, and it was great. Just maybe this isn't the high point of what we had. Like I said about the last one, not the best, not the worst, just kinda there. Okay, up next, the Sontaran Stratagem and Poison Sky. Okay, so this is one that, is it just me or do a lot of people not seem to like it? I know it's not perfect, but hey, it's a lot more exciting than past Sontaran stories. I think maybe a lot of people weren't enjoying Series 4, and so maybe that colored their opinions. However, I really was enjoying Series 4. I thought at the time and still think that it's the best season RTD did. It was great to see a unit-centric story beyond the small references and almost cameo appearances we'd had in the new series up to this point. My only regret is that the Brigadier wasn't there, but at least we got a reference. I feel like this story tried to do something with the Sontarans that it did with the Daleks in Series 1. Not in the sense that it made them scary, but in the sense that we got to see an army. Something they would reference, but wouldn't be able to show in the old series. Instead, we'd just get like 4 or 5 of them and some reference to more being in a ship above or something. And even though it dates it, I actually kind of like the Atmos stuff as well. GPS was a big thing at the time, and making it evil, I thought it was fun in a relatable sort of way. And that's what this story is. Maybe not great, but just a lot of fun. And last but not least, the Time Warrior. As is often the case, the original sits on top. This story is not only the introduction of the Sontarans, but also of Sarah Jane Smith as well. One of the best companions the show has ever had. This story is so much fun. It's on a smaller scale to the others. The whole world isn't in danger here necessarily, just the occupants of a few medieval castles. It's a sparkling script, and even the trope of someone jumping to the conclusion that the main character is bad, which tropes like that can usually get annoying, but it's fun here for some reason. Elizabeth Sladen and John Pertwee hit it off immediately. Their chemistry is definitely different from what it would evolve into with Tom Baker, but I don't think that detracts from it. I think her chemistry with Pertwee was great as well. The guest cast does an excellent job here as well. Kevin Lindsay delivers a fantastic performance as the Sontaran Lynx, and David Dacre is just as excellent and very humorous as his foil, the robber baron Irongron. A really fun script brought to life by a really fun cast is what puts this at the top of the list. So, what did you guys think of my ranking? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What's your favorite Sontaran story? Let me know in the comments below. Oh, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and Sontar ha! See you later.